Hey everyone, Half-Ace G1 here, and today I got a pretty cool thing going for you guys. We have an interview with CG developers, so I'm gonna go ahead and introduce you to them right now.
You first.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. We work there.
Yeah, hi. I'm Carrie, and I'm CG Carrie in the forums, and I'm the senior producer on Galaxy of Heroes, and so I get the pleasure of working on this game day in, day out with a lot of really talented people, like this person.
No, don't do that.
No?
Hi, I'm Nick Reinhardt. I go by CG Top Hat in the forums. I work with the live operations team, and so my team is responsible for the day in, day out. So new characters, events, territory wars, battles, etc. And I have the pleasure of working for Carrie. CG
That's damn right.
Anyway, you've got some questions for us, right?
Yes, I do. Alrighty. So let's start with we'll start with the first question. So the first question that I'm gonna ask is, do you have a timeline for implementing improved mod management? For example, saved mod sets, improved filtering, searching, etc.
Yeah, so, we've talked a lot sort of recently about kind of communication and how we're going to talk about things, and so I'll sort of couch this in the sense that, like, I want to talk a lot about sort of mods and what we think about mods, and then as far as the timeline goes, the timeline, we probably won't give any specifics about exactly when, because there are a lot of reasons why we can't explain something that's like it's a little bit further out, mostly just to do with if we have to change it or if it's not finished. We don't want to like sort of give expectations until it's really kind of in a good shape. But I will talk a bit about mods. It's definitely after the 600 ticket thing and the arena refresh thing. I think mod sets one of the sort of most requested things from the community, and so
Of course, yeah.
we certainly feel the same way. It's interesting because when mods were originally built, the cost of changing mods was intended to be prohibitive. In that people, we didn't really expect people to want to move mods around. In fact, the sort of way that mods are dropped throughout the game was intended to create enough mods in your sort of inventory to allow you to be like, I have so many mods, why would I ever want to change them? And of course, when systems evolve, like mods have evolved,
And just the nature of the game is changed.
Yeah, just the nature of the game, and it's right, when players kind of get their hands on the game, it sort of becomes something else other than what maybe sometimes we intend for it to be. So, it became clear that people were doing this and they were doing it a lot, and I could speak that, like, I think a lot of people's initial reaction is like, but that's not how you're supposed to be doing it wrong, right? But that's actually the wrong attitude. The right attitude is like, okay, this is how people are using it, we need to sort of meet them where they are. And so we're talking about a number of things with mods. I think it sort of falls into a couple of different buckets. One is sort of diversity of mods. At the moment, speed mods are really sort of
The meta.
the thing. Yeah, exactly. And so we want there to be a reason to get different stats, right? And whether that's the stats that we have now, or whether they're completely different stats or something, like, we believe that the idea is that there should be different viable strategies rather than sort of really, really coarse basic strategies. The other thing is clarity. Like, it's really confusing. The system is hard to use. We use the sort of the gold treatment on mods for both it being leveled up to 15, but also it being a rare mod. Like, you use the same visual language for two different things, which is just sort of like basic UI no-nos. Mm-hmm. And also it's just really complicated for new users to get in there. Like, obviously we're really grateful for people in the community doing videos and explaining it and, like, facts and stuff like that, but we think it should be able to be understood inside of the game. And then finally, and most importantly, like, it needs to be a workable system. Last year in the quality of life update, when we added the speed up to being able to upgrade all the way to level 15 mod, and that animation to not happen, you had to wait until the end of the animation before. I mean, it was maddening. And so
Yeah.
we definitely feel the pain, and we know that it's something that people want. It's not just, and I've said this before, and people are like, well, why? But it's not just as simple as a small quality of life thing, because when we address mods, we're going to want to do it in a way that doesn't disrupt what people are doing with them currently, right? So it would probably have to come with a 6-dot mod, or, something that allows us to sort of move
6-dot mods, man.
progression to a new place. Yeah, exactly. So all I'll say is so I can't give any kind of time frame, and I just wanted to sort of talk about the things that we're thinking about and the things that we're hearing. And of course, we're also curious to hear any other particular experiences. Did I cover everything?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, I think one of the biggest things is that it's a really, I hope that people can appreciate that when you design a system like that, like to Carrie's point, like you use it one way in studio and in dev and like in what you intend people to do.
Yeah.
But then like once it's out in the wild, and I think that's key. Like once it was out in the wild, it was like, holy cow, this is evolving and changing in a way that perhaps we didn't really intend. And
Yeah.
I think in many ways we're playing catch up, and even after all this time, like to know what the future should look like. Because yeah, for us to touch mods, like you're literally changing the entire balance of the game in a lot. So like, what does that mean for the future? That's a hard question to answer.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like, I'm personally struggling with. I have like speed mods, like my best speed mods, and I have to like juggle them through territory wars, through like arena. It's just a hassle. Like, it would have been nice to have just like a mods like sets like pre-save. That would have been really nice. But yeah, I understand where you guys coming from that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think you can also like just to. It's not even really tipping the hat. Like I think, like if you look at mods and you look at the UI treatment of them, like I think you can also see, like, so everybody says like, why can't I save pets or why can't I filter? Like one of the first questions is like, what does that look like on the screen?
Yeah.
And like in a way that's intuitive, and that's already a hard enough question. In addition to having some sort of save system that is easy and extensible, that's easy to swap
That
across.
covers equipped mods and unequipped mods, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot.
It's a lot. So, and we want to do that right.
The next question is, can you let us know when you adjust the RNGs? Has the RNG been changed recently, like sometime around the release of the new Sith Raid?
So it's an interesting question, because it supposes that we go through and we actually change the like random generator and the seed around it. And best to my knowledge, we've never touched it. Now the way that periodically we make changes to the underlying battle system, it's so that we can accommodate new things that people can do inside of the game. So like when we author new tech that allows us to introduce new status effects and things, sometimes the way the underlying system handles information coming in and out, that will change slightly. But as far as actual RNG, there actually hasn't been a change to the RNG, because one of the things that I would say is core to the game is that making major shifts to the way that players experience randomness is actually works. But people are very good at knowing when a randomness they're used to changes. And so we don't want to do that, because like y'all's entire mental model around the way the game works is built around your understanding of that RNG. I would one of my favorite quotes, and I've said this somewhere else, is that I think it's by a statistician called George Box that basically said that
You are such a nerd.
yeah, well, that's fine. Luck is probability taken personally, I think is how it goes.
That's really funny.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of times seem very malicious at times, but it's really just a bad edge, is like sort of what you've sort of ended. But like, do you have a specific example of
Yeah, I
RNG
actually
has gotten
do.
yours?
Yeah, I do. Like, it's not just me. I have like a bunch of like ship shard mates and arena shard mates. Especially this meta, you guys introduced the Emperor Palpatine meta. It's all revolved around RNG. Highest speeds, Emperor Palpatines don't stay in the top. It's not like a speed game anymore. It's basically like an RNG game, like a very low GP level with really low speed. Emperor Palpatine led team can easily beat high and Emperor Palpatine lead if RNG is on their side. That's for arena. For ships, I've personally noticed I'm having a hard time like having target lock stuck on there, and sometimes like my first ship just like gets destroyed right away because my opponent just goes all first. So that's personally my experience with RNG, and it did get worse right after the Sith Raid came out.
I think, well, Nick can speak to sort of the component thing. I think for me, like the thing that I actually appreciate you asked this question, because it kind of we can elucidate on this, is like the changing of it. Like we don't have sort of dynamic RNG that sort of targets certain behaviors or certain whatever. Now, that's not to say that RNG isn't involved in certain aspects of the gameplay, and certainly that can be the case. I think maybe with Palpatine, maybe that's what he's experiencing. It's just that it can feel. It's the feeling of it, right? It's not changing anything. It's just that like the way it's set up.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, and again, like to be clear, I don't want to dismiss that you have had a bad time. Like that's not to say like.
And there could be a bug. Like that's the thing I don't want to dismiss ever, because it's possible there's a bug that we should look into.
But
yeah,
so,
I think ships might be bugged. Yeah.
But I would also say that like my experience with sort of what little psychology and courses work I've taken, like people tend to remember the time they got screwed over more recently or more vividly than they did for all the other times when they did really well. And so again, like I don't want to be dismissive. I just want to say that I think generally I can tell you factually that we have not gone through and been like, yeah, we're going to really tune this thing to the top. Like we're going to get them. I think RNG right now is the same as it has been. Generally, if you're experiencing something, it's either a bug or it's just the way that a really complex system sort of expresses itself. It's a hard, like whenever we whenever we help create new characters or help tune towards a meta, like we can't tune for it exactly. We sort of we get 80% of the way there, and then players end up taking whatever we did and take it 70% the other direction and 80% up and do something very different with it.
All right, yeah, fair enough. All right, so the next question is, can you speak a little bit about where the arena meta specifically is headed to?
So, this is sort of keying off of your last question, in regard that we have expectations on where we think it's going to go. But as far as how much we've designed it out, that's, sort of a question for debate. Like, Darth Treya is coming, and the Sith Triumvirate is coming.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, and we're really excited about it. I mean, I said it somewhere else, and I don't remember where it was, but there was this really cool moment when we started building out the Sith Triumvirate where we were building the raid, and then we had decided to do Treya, and then we realized, holy cow, we actually have an opportunity for players to own the raid monsters, the actual boss, and be able to use it not to the same sort of towering crazy levels that you see inside of a raid, but at your own personal sort of a more personal local level in PvP. So I mean, Treya's coming, and I would say she's going to be really powerful. It's part of our current line that we're taking with reinforcing the dark side, giving the dark side a tremendous amount of love. I think
by the way, can I just insert here, that was a lesson that we took last year with the dark side territory battle, is that the gap, we knew that people didn't have enough dark side characters, but I think we probably in hindsight would have wished that we'd had more then, so that it didn't seem like as difficult relative to, it was always intended to be more difficult. But I just wanted to insert that we do enjoy the fact that we now release these.
Yeah, right? Well, I mean, we're happy. I mean, we want to see a dark, it's no fun, as much as I think the players think that we wanted Rebels to be the best thing ever forever. That's not. That's
the theory going on, that you guys are Rebel lovers.
No, we're not Rebel lovers. There's actually it's one of those things that if you take a step back and you look at Star Wars, there are way more good guys than there are bad guys. And now, let me rephrase that. There are way more unique good guys than there are unique bad guys.
With extensive things in the universe to do.
That isn't just them standing around. Even if you look in Rogue One, Death Troopers. Yeah. They shoot a woman, and that's the extent of what they do. Cool. You guys are really hard. Cool. So we run into a problem in that we don't want to just create dark side characters for the sake of we want to make sure that all those kits are actually able to deliver, which is also one of the things that we end up bumping up whenever we hear requests for a bad guy hero's journey or something. There are lots of bad guys, but there's actually this sort of difficult thing for us to deliver on,
ones that actually talk to other people,
that have a bunch of buddies that they go around and beat up good guys with. That's actually a hard thing for us to deliver. And let me rephrase that. There are instances of it, but it's also another of those things that if we want to deliver on it correctly, it takes a lot of time for us to sort of set up and make sure that we do it right. But your original question is about the meta. We know...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry for that aside.
No worries.
But we know... I mean, Darth Raid is coming. She's going to shake things up quite a bit. We've got an understanding of what we think it's going to happen. We also have some ideas of what we think people will do in response to her, but... it's a huge game, and there are hundreds of thousands of you guys and only so many of us. And so we expect it to change. We expect that the things that we think people will do to counter her will be more wildly different than we had ever imagined. So we're really excited to see it. I think for us, it's more of it's a countdown to when she enters and what's going to happen, and then seeing what happens from there.
Yeah, and thank you very much for actually bringing some dark side love, because everyone kept saying you're just gonna bring rebels all the time.
Yeah, no, again, it's not. I mean, and don't the light side's cool too. I mean, and so but
yeah, it is cool.
we recognize that there was a lot of light side for a long time, and we really wanted to take an opportunity to really double down on dark, and so we're doing some dark side stuff for a little bit.
Awesome. So last question I'm going to ask you guys is, can you guys talk briefly about your day-to-day basis working on Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes as developers?
Sure. Yeah. So, what I'm senior producer on the title, so that means I sort of I'm like evil management in some way, and the real work is done by all of our like very hardworking developers, and so we've got designers and engineers and artists and QA and analysts and all kinds of different things, and so day in day out what I normally do is a lot of emails, a lot of meetings, but particularly like my job is to be kind of responsible for the vision of the game. So I put together a roadmap of like where I want the game to go, what I think, and to be quite honest, like because Nick is exceptionally good at what he does, like, and he's really kind of thinks about all of the content releases, and like we talk about like what kind of themes we want to hit, and we do a lot of sort of thematic releases that are in maybe a given month or a given kind of grouping of characters that are all kind of the same theme, and how is that going to play together, and then what features do we need to address too. And that involves a lot of different inputs. People on the team are super highly engaged with this game, so we get a lot of feedback from people on the team. We also do a lot of sort of checking with the community and looking at what's being said in the community and looking at surveys and looking at all kinds of stuff. We take all that input in, and so day in day out it can feel a little bit sometimes like an office job where I'm going to a bunch of meetings and talking a lot and writing a lot of emails, but like those days when I get to like go to a meeting and we sit down and talk about the next big thing that we're doing, or or we're looking at a build and we're all sitting around playing it and talking about what we like about it and how it plays and what we don't like, that's the gold of this job. Like I couldn't ask for anything better to do. It's super fun. But it can be frustrating sometimes because it's been a little bit since I've actually been like one of those people doing the work. So like, even though I'm kind of doing a lot of the talking about this game, like there's a group of people here that are incredible and do so much of the actual kind of decision making. Like so we talk about producers kind of the vision, but like sometimes it's very intricate specific details or how that vision is achieved. It comes up to those developers who we try to give as much ownership as possible, and so one person will take a part of the game and they'll really come up with kind of how they want to execute it.
Yeah, I mean, and to what Carrie's saying, I think so much of game dev, the idea or the ideal is that you sort of do it flawlessly. Like something comes out and people say, well, they released this really simple thing and like it's well executed, but like what behind the scenes is just the number of iterations, the number of talking. Like we have a ton of meetings because you need 5 to 6 people all thinking hard on a problem and working through it again and again and again and again, trying to figure out the edges, trying to figure out what is the best version of that experience. And so my job is similar to Carrie's, except that I work on a much more local problem, and that I think primarily about the live operations. What does it look like day to day in Galaxy of Heroes? And we try to do it a year out at a time. Like, what do we expect players to be doing? And that's mostly to make sure that we're able to deliver on utility and value over a long period of time. We want to make sure that if we're going to ask you to invest in something, if we're going to ask you to use those characters, are they going to be useful? Where are they going to be useful? How are you going to use them, etc.? And to Carrie's point, like I am incredibly lucky to work with this just incredible group of designers, analysts, QA, balance specialists, and everything else that every day are thinking very hard, trying to imagine as a player, as all these different types of players, day in, day out.
That's right.
What is the best version of this? Because we don't just want to make things that are just good for one small group of people. We want everybody on a regular basis to, like, this doesn't sound corny, like just like get
That's
that. It sounds corny to even lead into it, but like to say like a really good Star Wars like experience, an authentic one.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, everyone should be have fun. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that sometimes those two things put it in opposition with each other, right? Like sometimes when you're doing something, people who primarily collect stuff, it can be like in opposition to something who's primarily competitive. And so sometimes that balance comes from trying to find a nice compromise inside of a feature. That means from two different features. Like territory battles and wars are sort of the two biggest segments of our player base. Battles really for like collection type people, of approximately like 50% of our players focus on collecting things, and the other 50% approximately are focused on for being competitive. And so collection and competition, if we can't marry them, we do make sure we try to hit both.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that'll be all for the Q&A. Thank you very much for answering my questions. It was like a pleasure talking to you guys directly for the first time for me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys, that'll be all for the interview. Thank you for watching, and big thank you to CG for actually doing this. Expect more content like this in the future when CG does interviews like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.